Good evening. Oh my gosh, it's Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Let's get into it. You know the drill. All right. So, happy Friday, everyone. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Free Flame Thoughts. Today's special guest is Kim, and she's going to be discussing how she overcame the burnout, anxiety, and depression, and so much more. So let's bring her in and we can do the rest of the introduction. Let me see if I could bring you in, Kim. Kim, can you see a request button at all that says request yourself to come in? If so, press that button for me. Okay.
Well, hello.
Hello. Give me one moment while I out my bush.
Sure.
Hang on. Hi, Kim. Welcome. Let me readjust
Thank you.
myself now that you're on. Let me make sure I can see the top of my head. And
Oh,
I can see the top of your head. Okay, bear with me.
just about.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, welcome, Kim. Okay, guys, for the couple of you that's on the live and the rest that will hopefully join us later, if not, enjoy the playback. This is Kim from Bandbox. Is that correct? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, and today we're going to be discussing her journey of how she overcame and now helps facilitate others to overcome anxiety, depression, and so much more via the vein of creativity, which I love. Yeah, I absolutely
Thank
love.
you.
Yeah, so before we get into it, let me ask you, how did you spend your day leading up to this talk today?
Oh, to be honest, I rested a lot. I've been feeling really drained. I guess with
Oh, yeah.
everything happening for the last week, it's been a lot. So in preparation for this, I just sort of tried to sit with my energy and kind of see what I felt like flowing with and to see where I was led with this conversation. So I'm actually really excited to see what comes out because it's my creative process, no matter what I'm doing, is very intuitive. So I'm always excited to see the end product because I don't have a clear picture in mind. So
Good,
so
good.
I
We're
just start
very
with my energy
similar.
to prepare for this, and yeah.
Good, we're very similar. I'll share a little bit about my day. Well, I went to the modern day plantation, which is work. And yeah, as I call it, which is work. I had, half day. I came home, cooked some dinner, and I actually put myself to bed. I actually put myself to bed, and I think it's really important to know when, to be loyal to what your body needs, And like yourself, I've been feeling drained, but that's because I've gone to the steam sauna 2 days ago, and it makes me feel, it puts my body in a deep rest. So I've been
You're
feeling
breaking up. Is that
lethargic.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just rested for about an hour, put on a bit of, a movie and fell asleep for about an hour. And yeah, and ping, now I'm here for you, ready for your girl. Yeah. Okay. So before we get
And you're
into this,
looking beautiful. I absolutely love your look. I just have
thank
to let you know. I
you.
love
Thank
it.
you. Like voila, in 5 minutes.
Well, that's my girl.
Thank
That's
you.
my
I
whole process
appreciate
as
it.
well.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, before we get into the juice of the conversation,
Mhm.
I'd like to begin by unlayering you as a
Woo.
soul, as I love to say. So let's start this talk with the warm-up zone. And it's just a few
Okay.
random questions that I ask my lovely guests so we can get to know you a little bit more beside the handles of what we do. Is that okay? Yeah?
I'm here for it. Let's go.
Super. Okay. So the first thing is, who is Kim?
Kim is a lot of things. I am a multi-layered individual. I am a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an artist, I'm a creator. Um, I don't really sit in the label of who I am, but these are the titles that I wear most proudly, I like to say. So
I love
that's
it.
in a nutshell who I am.
Oh, wow. That was quick, Kim. But then again, it sounds like it's quick, but that's probably quite a lot on an everyday basis, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Because every part of me that I am, I give very fully and very authentically. Hence why I tend to be really drained at the end of
Oh,
some periods. You know, exams are coming, so I'm a mom, and that takes some time. Then there's my husband. We'll be married 2 years next month, so there's that. There's the business.
congratulations.
Thank you. There's the business aspect of me. And you know, as a creator, I have two sides to my creativity, which is my business and my personal creativity, which is what I do to not be my business. So it's not much, but it's a lot.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I am a very much a creative, artistic soul myself. So I actually, whoever's trying to contact me now, no, this is all about Kim. Go away. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so we hear the accent, but the Caribbean is such a wide place. So let us know. Let's define it. Where are you from? Where are you? Where's this twang coming from? Because I know, but you can let me know. You can let the audience know.
I'm in St. Lucia. I live in St. Lucia. I grew up in St. Lucia. So most of my accent is from St. Lucia.
Okay, so let me pretend I know how to speak Pata, which I'm half Dominican. So, Sakafet, no. What would you say? Okay. You see, we just said hello in our own dialect because he's St. Lucian, I'm half Dominican, and we speak the same language. Although Kim's is going to teach me, I hope.
I will.
Yeah.
We're gonna
All right.
work on it.
Good. All right. So you're St. Lucian, and so you was born and raised in St. Lucia your entire life.
Mm-hmm. I was.
Wow. Have you traveled much
Yeah.
outside of St. Lucia?
I have a few times. Recently for my TED Talk, I was in New Jersey. I spent quite some time there. And during the time that I traveled, I went to quite a few different places visiting friends and family. So I kind of city and stayed hopped during my period of time while I was over there. So I spent quite some time all over the place. And I do hope to travel a bit more now that we're free to travel.
Cool. Well, if you're ever in London, holler a chick, holler. Let me
That's
know you're
next on
about.
the list. That is next on the list because I have family there that I need to visit soon. So that is next on the list. So
Good,
I'll go.
good. You are welcome. All right. What was Kim like as a child? Tell us about. Give me a snapshot of the younger you.
I was a pain in the ass.
No way.
I
You look
really
so
was.
cute and innocent. I can't believe this. Really?
Nobody's gonna believe that. That is such shenanigans. Nobody's believing that.
Tell me
I'm
a bit.
still a
Tell
pain
me.
in the
Tell me,
ass.
tell me a
I
little bit
just have
about that.
less wisdom. I was always very I was always a very smart mouth, but I was always very creative and charming. So I like to think I've always been a really good person, but with a
Mm-hmm.
lot less wisdom. um I used to be a beauty queen when I was in my late teens.
Mm-hmm.
I started modeling when I was 16. I used to want to be a singer since I was like 8 years old. That was like my
Snap,
lifelong
snap.
dream. and then it was no, you can't do anything like that. You need to be a lawyer because that's a stable job. So that's
Oh,
where yes, that's where I was actually going to end up. And then I found my passion in creativity and I decided to go for that instead. So I ended up in fashion and here I am now. So yeah, I think if I'm thinking about the snapshot of when I was really young to where I am now, it's really not that far. It was a winding road to get me here. It's really pretty much the same person. I have the cutest little picture of when I got my first passport. I think I was probably 6 at the oldest, and I swear to you, you know how you look at these apps and then you just see people aging across. It's
yeah.
exactly how it looks. It is the funniest thing.
Really? I put up a baby picture of myself or a younger picture of myself the other day. Sometimes it's a strange thing looking back at yourself, isn't it? And
Not really. I have a niece that looks
yeah.
exactly like me, so
Oh.
it kind of feels surreal sometimes. Yeah.
You mentioned fashion. That's my thing. Or maybe I should say style is more my thing. As fashion has a season, doesn't it? But I think style is my thing. So I love to cross seasons. So I would like to mix vintage with shabby chic, and my wardrobe's crazy. So I love it.
So
You
I
can.
think that's what I discovered, which is why I separated myself from the fashion business and decided to just move full on into creativity. Because my passion wasn't for fashion. My passion was for the self-expression that came from fashion. So I
Create.
really love offering people the opportunity to express themselves in a different way. Because, you know, like you said, when you go to the 9 to 5 and you're in a uniform and you're in the gray and you're in the navy blues, it's kind of difficult sometimes to really see yourself outside of that. So I always love the opportunity to help people who are always in that space to express themselves differently. So it really wasn't about fashion for me. You know, like people are fashionistas and the next season, I don't care about that
I
stuff
love
at
all
all.
seasons. I love all
I
seasons.
love it. Yes. And coming from
Mm.
the Caribbean, we have 2 seasons, wet and dry. And
Oh,
these seasons
wow.
happen several times a day. So
Mm.
we
But let
really
me
don't
ask you
break
an
up
honest
into
question.
uh-huh.
Considering obviously you touched for a moment in the fashion industry, um, I'm not sure how long you spent there. Would you say, because obviously coming from London and being a Westerner as well, and me seeing how like when a lot of Caribbeans come over here, or whether you're African, Caribbean, Asian, wherever, you can kind of always tell a back home girl and a back home boy based on how they dress. So I won't
Yes.
say it, but in your opinion, do you think that Caribbeans have style?
I do think Caribbeans have
Do
style.
you?
I do. The thing is, we it's a bit of twofold. Like I said, because we only have wet and dry, we don't have to fuss about fall and winter and the big jacket, so we don't get as much variety. I love
Mm.
tank tops and short pants. That's
Oh,
my
I do.
go-to.
Mm.
It's always hot, so that's where I go to. Like long
Mm.
pants are only if I'm going somewhere where people will be like, "You're not dressed enough. You can't enter this place." I have to gear myself into long pants. So it's not we don't have style. Is that we need an occasion for it because
Mhm,
we
mhm,
don't
mhm.
fuss about
I
you
didn't
know
say it. I didn't say it. I just asked the question.
we need an occasion, and that's why Caribbean people fit because that's where
But
we get an
let me
occasion to
fine
really
tune that
dress up.
before the Caribbeans come down and switch me off. Yeah, down. Yeah, I
Our
think
Caribbean
Caribbean's a
people
broad
is
place.
nothing but love.
Yeah,
Say that
this
again.
Caribbean's a broad place. There's so many continents within, and so I
Uh-huh.
think that women somehow, even from the slavery days, we always allegedly, from what I see in the pictures, always
Hmm.
found something to create something, even if it's a head wrap or
Exactly.
our
Exactly.
hairstyles. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
But the
not as
men, but the men, I would say there's room for desire in terms of a lot. I can always tell 99.9 a back home boy, and I'm like, no, we got to go shopping, boo. We got to go
but
shopping.
that I feel like in general that's men on a whole. Unless
Oh,
you're really looking at if you're looking at big country where you're looking at people who
mm,
are tailored and stuff in
mm,
general, that's a
mm,
lifestyle choice if you're being honest.
mm.
Because
But
tailored is a whole
Jamaican, I would say, I don't know about, there's going to be much more, but Jamaicans, I can say, especially the men, because they do spend a lot of time back and forth in America, they kind of have a lot more style. Because they're a lot more, even, especially, even it's like Nigeria, they have a lot more, I guess, because they're very much into
vibes.
the twang. But women, we always find something to create with, I would say.
Exactly, exactly. And it takes a
Mm.
fit. We don't have to have an occasion for us to dress in color. And a lot of the time I find with bigger countries especially, the way people express fashion is through different colors. So fall has a color palette and summer has a color palette. And we dress however we want year round because we have the
Mm.
luxury with our climate. So for us to really dress up in the way that bigger countries see dressing up, we need a fit. So that's why Caribbean people fit, so we can dress up. So
Yeah,
I think
no.
it has a lot more to do with culture. That is it's really not necessary for us because
Ah.
the things that people see as fashion we look at it as either way too much for where we're living because it's going to be hot as hell, or we look at it as I wear that all the time. It's really not that big of a deal, kind of thing. You know what I
Ah.
mean?
And you're
So it
constantly in a
has a lot
hot
more to do
climate,
with
isn't
culture.
it? It's constantly hot there, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. So I'm not
Amazing.
about no long jackets in no fleece and no flannel and no. It's about the cottons that can breathe. I'm not wearing silk shirts any
Mhm.
damn way. Like,
Well, my baby brother just came back from St. Lucia a couple of days ago, so I'm going to ask him what's it like over there in terms of because especially when I'm traveling, not everywhere has all of that, so it does depend. So I'll look forward to that. All right, so we're
yeah.
still in the warm-up zone. A few more questions so we can get to know you before we get into the juice of the actual topic of the
Let's do
hour.
it.
So, what color best describes you and why?
Ha 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 ha. Let me go a funny story.
Go on.
When you're doing branding and they say, choose 3 colors and it's 40, 60, and whatever is remaining, 10 something. And they say, choose 3 colors and do the thing. I have like 7 or 8 brand colors.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
hardest question on the planet. I chose the rainbow spectrum, and I took X codes that I prefer that work together, and these are my brand colors. So I don't have a color that's me. It's really dependent on where I am at any one point in time. It doesn't exist. My
Great
favorite color, I
answer.
would say, Amy says,
Great
Keisha,
answer.
Amy, go away. My favorite color personally is purple. You would have never guessed. My favorite color is
Ooh.
purple, but it doesn't necessarily describe me, especially if you're thinking of, okay, purple is royalty and this and whatever, and that's great. I would take that, but
And
it has nothing to
healing
do with
and
my
all that stuff.
personality.
And
My
wealth.
personality
And
is the rainbow. It really is.
oh,
So that's
wow.
my favorite color.
You know, I love that. You're the second person, and that was someone recently who came on who I've asked that question to, and I really love that. That although I've asked you to pick a color, you're like, actually, no, I have colors that describe me, and I like that because it just means that nobody could actually put you in a box, even with a question. Yeah, I really, really like
Exactly.
that.
I really
Yeah,
enjoy
I
that.
have I love colors, full stop. But red is the one. It's my go-to. But I love color, orange,
Well,
greens.
it's a
I've just
good
started
choice
liking
on you.
purple again. Mm?
Red is a great choice on you. It looks wonderful on
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. All right. So if you could change anything about yourself, if anything, maybe you don't want to change anything about yourself, anything in the world, what would it be and why?
you. If I could change anything about myself, to be honest, as cheesy as it might sound, I wouldn't change
Kim,
anything.
sorry, 1 second. For some reason, the volume just gone shh. I don't know why the
Are you
volume's
hearing
just
me
gone
now?
down. Can you hear me? Can you hear me loudly? Can you hear me loud
I'm
enough?
hearing you just fine. Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay.
Are you hearing
Proceed.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's lowered. But proceed. Maybe just try to project a little bit louder if possible. I don't know why that's happened,
Okay.
but continue.
I wouldn't change anything. If you had asked me maybe a couple years ago, I would have had a different answer. But I feel like because of how everything progressed in my
Ooh, we are buffering.
afraid of sharing, these are the
Okay, we are buffering. Okay, you're back. You just froze for a moment. I know you're long distance call. If you disconnect,
I don't know
Kim,
what's
just
going on.
come all the way back in. 1 second. Can you hear me, Kim? Because you're buffering, you're freezing a lot now.
I'm hearing you just fine. That's so strange.
Yeah, you're freezing and coming back. Okay, continue. Let's see how we go. Uh,
Would you like me to come back?
no, oh. Okay, proceed. Let's see how it goes. If not, we've got to reboot. It's this long
Okay.
distance call. It happens. Carry on. Let's see how we go.
Okay, sure. So I was saying that all of the things from my experiences all the way in the past and all of the things that I felt like brought me shame and made me uncomfortable about myself from before are the things I understand now have shaped me as a person that I am. So a few years
Mm.
ago, maybe I wouldn't have come up with a list, but right now I don't see anything that I would change because it's created the beautiful fabric of my life and it's made me who I am. So I wouldn't change
Absolutely.
anything. And believe me, I've been through it. There are a few things probably somebody else would have said, I'm throwing this in the garbage, but I'm
Mm.
cool with it, to be honest. I've gotten to the place where I
Do you
know I'm
know? Do you
happy.
know, Kim? Do you know intuitively? I knew you were going to say that. I can look at you dead in your eyes and say, and let me tell you, less about an hour ago, usually I would have jotted notes from before and I didn't. I actually
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And I had to lie down and I said, this is one of the questions I'm going to ask you in the because it's questions that I ask you, but sometimes I switch it up a little bit. And I said to myself, based on the transitions, I don't think she's going to change anything.
Really?
Because often when we have some kind of a rebirth, whenever
Mm-hmm.
people have profound shredding, the metamorphosis, the rebirth, often it's a full case of acceptance and actually I take it all. A lot of people have that.
Yes.
So I kind of knew you were going to say that. So I'm glad. My intuitivity, I'm grateful for it. Yeah, honestly, that's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. Believe me, it
That's a
is. On the
beautiful
other side
thing.
of it, The journey
Okay.
is hard, but on the other side, understanding the beauty of it. Because I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but when I went through anxiety and when I traveled, I actually met some of my family and I realized it's actually something it's in my family. Call it hereditary, whatever it is. I don't understand how
Me too. Me too. Me too.
how it flows. Yeah, but it's in my family. It's how we operate. So going through it in the way that I did, and actually being able to go through the healing process of it, talk therapy for one, because I'm not saying creativity is the answer to it, but it's a very
Mhm.
nice companion on the journey, right? So between talk therapy, shadow work, and my own creative process of managing it on a daily basis, what I realized after a period of time was I was preparing for my son to break the cycle so that I could help him
Mm.
be different, grow up different. Because anxiety is such a part of me, hypervigilance is such a part of me that some parts of it I just decided to accept
Mm.
instead of fight. Because to be honest, some parts of it are not that bad. It's like a really, really good alarm system. That's how I look at it. Instead of looking
Mm.
at it as this thing that I should fear all the time, it's like I just need to filter through and change the settings so that my mind understands that this isn't a scary thing anymore, friend. You're good, you're safe. Versus some of the things that are supposed to be scary that other people don't notice. I notice everything, and it made
Mhm.
me a very detail oriented artist. It really helps with my work that I'm that vigilant. So I don't want to throw
Amazing.
everything away. So understanding it and being able to dissect it and process it for myself helps me to
Hmm.
be able to help my son to process it and process it in plain English. So it's
Yeah,
not just a bunch of jargon all over the place that he can't understand and trying to find crazy remedies all over the internet. I
mm.
could help him heal so that he does not have to go through it in the way that I did. So,
That's
like I
a
said,
beautiful thing. So you change nothing, you take it all. That's
yes.
lovely. All right, a couple of more questions in the warm up zone, and then we can get into it. How does your family or even associates and friends describe you now as an adult? We spoke about you as a child. How would people describe you now? And often we don't exactly know. It's almost like what do we think they're saying, or what's the odd things they say in passing that lets you know what they think of you. And I want to have a balance of not all the beautiful stuff. Let's have a bit of a balance. What do they think of Kim as an adult?
Oh, I'm not the rosy person, so I wouldn't just tell you all the good things. What would I find good things? What do people say?
The accent just came out then. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I don't talk to people. What are you doing to me? Um, if my friends are on this live, help me here. What are people saying? Oh my gosh.
You know, you can always tell. There is the reason why I asked this question. It's a trick question because if we think about it, and for those who watch the playback, and for those a couple that's on the live, if we say, what does our friends and family think? Everybody says they think I'm kind. They think I'm this. I can assure you, no one goes around life with everyone saying how great you are every day.
No, I know
Even
my
if,
grandmother thinks I'm ungrateful,
do you see
so
what I
she
mean?
doesn't
Even
want
my
me to
dad
be
would say, look at her now. Look at her now. You know, my
right. No, no. I know a lot of my family thinks that I'm a privileged piece of shit because they see me on television and they think I'm really rich because my work afforded me the opportunity to do things like what we're doing now. And people,
okay.
especially small island people, they assume that
They think that you're
because
blowing up and got money now, don't
right,
they?
so you out there being this rich bitch who's not, doing anything for anybody and helping people to come up and stuff. And they assume that when you do fashion shows is because you're rolling in the dough. Because people just know New York Fashion Week,
They
they
don't
don't know
have
the
a
rest of
clue.
it. They don't know the
Mm-hmm.
behinds. So I know people assume that about me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of time for people because of how I work. And it's not because I don't care, it's because I'm just not a very social person. I'm not the kind of
Oh, so
person that
you're
people
not a
want to.
people's person as such.
I'm not. I'm not always on the other end of my phone checking on
Oh
everybody.
no, you don't have to be like that. But I mean,
And
social.
but
Okay.
people expect that. So that's where the ungrateful part comes from. Everybody expects me to be
Okay.
checking in on everybody. But it's not because I don't love everybody. I do. It's just that I'm here for you when you need me. I just can't be there for everybody all the time. It's impossible. and I can't go out doing great things if I'm always on the other end of my phone. I need to find time to unwind and actually spend time building my life. And that's what I've been
Mm.
doing. And it's a bit of a striking a balance. I know a lot of people think that I'm funny and I'm fun and love spending time with me. I know I'm the wisdom friend everybody calls me when they're in the tough spots because they want to pick my brain about I'm
Mm-hmm.
here. I feel this way. And just to kind of talk things through with me, I'm that friend. I'm the friend everybody calls for that. It's a running joke in my house. It's like, okay, this person is calling me, something's happening. So I spend 2-3 hours with a friend who's just, they're not going through any like crisis or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
they feel stuck. And I'm the friend that they call. So it's not all rosy, it's not all great, but I'm okay with all of those things that people think about me because what people think about me aren't who I am. I'm secure in knowing that my intentions are good and
Mm-hmm.
I'm generally a good person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
genuinely authentic to who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
what they think is that, I guess. That's what I know about what they think.
You know, and it's interesting that you said that towards the end. What people think doesn't even, and you know what's interesting? That's the actual. Again, it's actually a triple trick question that I ask everybody because if you think about it, we would say what we think people think of us, but you're the only one who said actually, well, what they think doesn't even. But the reality is, there's still I don't care who we are, how famous we are, how established we are, or not everybody, I mean, for example, let's say you are a Grammy award 10 times over. You may not care about 98% of people's opinions, but guess what?
Right.
Maybe your grandmother's word means the most to you.
Yep. I
You may
always tell
not care
people
about all the tabloid, but
somebody's
maybe
word
maybe your
carries weight.
partner, without their support,
Hmm.
you can't even function. That there's always going to be one person that can your
Yep.
Hercules heel that hits you the most.
Yep. Yep. I strongly believe that. And I was having
You
this
know?
discussion with my husband actually a few weeks ago, and I said to him, I just need to know that you're with me. It doesn't matter. I just need to know that you're supporting me with this, whatever it is. And that's all it does because your yes counts more than everybody else's no. So I need to know.
Mm. And I tell you another hidden gem. Sometimes even having that needle desire can be like this because then you might realize in times of turbulence, I shouldn't even need theirs. Because when
Yes.
that's not
Yep.
there anymore or it's wavy, woo.
Hmm. Yep.
But
Yep.
that's being
Yep.
human. Yeah.
Is the
Your
truth.
last warm
Yep.
up question. Your last warm up question, which is, oh, which one shall I give you? I've got two. All right,
Then
I'll
give
give you
me
this
two.
one.
I'm here for both. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. If you could choose a superpower, if you don't already have it, what would it be? Anything in the world, girl.
If I could choose a superpower,
If you don't already have it. Mm-hmm.
if I could choose a superpower, oh my gosh,
Did I get you with that one? I hope so.
how dare you? Um,
And you see, not everyone gets me saying, and if you don't already have it, but there's certain people that I know that may already
I'm
have it
with
in their
you.
own right.
I'm present. I'm present. Oh my gosh, like if I could have a superpower, what would it be?
You know what you could do? You could just pick one in the present moment, then, even if you change it tonight, tomorrow, next week, in this moment, in this very moment, and it's great you said the present, what would it be for you?
Man, you got me with that one. This is so unfair. I don't know. You know what
Should we
it is?
go on?
And I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you this because I actually I thought about this last night. So it's this is actually what came to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not it wasn't last night. It was today. I was saying this out loud. So this is what's happening. I spend so much time being grateful. I
Mm.
very hardly think of I wish I had. So I
Ooh.
genuinely I don't want I can't think of anything that I don't I any superpower that I wish I had that I don't have.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Do you know I love there's two questions you've asked and I really love it. I love, 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 love that you've said that, you know, but I'll throw you a bonus. When I say someone has a superpower, like for example, I've asked myself the questions I ask people, I've asked myself. and it may
Right.
change as it goes. But my
Right.
superpower, if I don't, and I don't have all of it, but I have some of it,
Right.
would be a healer, which isn't even for me. So you could choose a
Right.
power that doesn't even have to be for you, it can be for the benefit for others. So mine
Right.
would
Right.
definitely be a healer by, I mean, extensively. You know, and I don't mean the healers you see on Instagram, you know,
I
status. I
know.
mean,
I
a
totally know.
healer. Make, you know, so you, it could be, it doesn't mean how, it could even be you using your creativity and people are healed, or people can have children, or people, there can be so many things that you get a blessing from blessing others. As you're so
Exactly.
top, you are top right now, which is in your life, and that's really beautiful. You don't even need it. So you've
Exactly.
answered
So
it.
it's
You've
like
answered it.
something that I don't already have because I find that we tend to spend a lot of time focusing on big wins. So when we don't get big wins, we feel like something's wrong or we're stuck or oh my gosh, I didn't and I don't. But I focus so much on
The
small wins,
present.
small wins that I don't miss big wins. When they happen, I'm
Mm.
thrilled. You know, like my talking mat on Friday, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it happened! It finally happened after I waited for a month." But I was also grateful for so many other things that happened that day. I
Mm.
didn't even have an opportunity to have the high the same Friday. I had to wait like 2 days.
Amazing. Well, I
You
love
know,
your question, and I wouldn't change your answer. I mean, sorry, I love your answer, and I wouldn't change it. I'll just give you an example of what it could be. But I
yeah,
love it, and I think you shouldn't change your answer, because that's just you in the moment of real gratitude.
it is. It is. It
You
really
know,
is.
and
I'm
maybe I
so
should
grateful
change
for
my
seeing
question.
it.
Well, not change it, but add that to my future questions, which could be, what are your small wins, and what would you be grateful for? That could be something I add to my question. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. As
Yeah,
if I hadn't
yeah,
said it would be here for now. Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah. All right. You happy with that? Okay. So that's your warm up zone. Thank you very, very much. All right. So
Yay.
Kim from Bandbox, let's get into the actual juice of your conversation, of our
Mhm.
topic of the hour conversation. So let me brief the guys who be watching the playback also on how I came across you. Well, as I always say, I was on social media, minding social media's business as I do. It's my job, yeah, to do that. And came across this lovely sister, and I thought, okay, let's click on. I didn't come across your actual profile. It was just a video amongst all the wheels. So the video dropped, and I was like, oh, before I even heard the voice or the accent, I just saw a colorful, a woman that's dressed in color, very pretty, melanated woman dressed in color, and the lips were smiling, but there was a seriousness that, you know, you can get an aura. There was this, and I thought, you know what is she talking about? Let me just click and mind her business for a minute. Yeah, what are you talking about? And I just saw a snapshot of you being on TED, I believe.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay. Then I went on to your profile, and I thought, okay, it's very colorful, it's creative. What's the story? And then it appears you were transmuting how to overcome or via creativity. And I thought, okay, I'm going to her inbox and I'm going to invite her to do a talk and see what your story is about. So we had our prior call, as I do with everybody else. And then you were sharing with me, you know, it was the journey of feeling burnt out, anxiety, and depression, and how you overcame that journey via veins of creativity, and how you now assist others. So that's a bit of the introduction dialogue here. Take us to the very beginning, if you don't mind, um, before you even and how you say you're more than a business card. I love that. You are more than a business card at this point, yeah? So take us all the way back to the beginning, before you even had the idea to even go up this creative road, and how to overcome these things from one creative to another. Where did it all begin? Let's start with the burnout.
To be honest, when I found out I was burnt out, I didn't know what it was. It had been years before it even had a name that I kept saying to my doctor, I think I'm depressed.
Mm,
I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't done any research, but I just kept feeling this very strange emptiness, like periods of just lull, just ugh, is
mm,
literally. anybody who's ever been
Can
on
you
burnout,
share the
that's what I
symptoms?
got.
Let's talk about symptoms. Each step. Let's go on the because everyone's symptoms is going
I'll
to
talk
be
about
very
the
different.
symptoms. This is just,
Because I've
this is
experienced
just
all
how I
the
was
above
doing.
myself. So let's talk about the symptoms.
Before there were symptoms, that's where I was, right?
Okay.
Um, I had around the time I had my son, he was going to school. He was probably 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was working and I was sewing as a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also going to classes. So I was doing this, working for a company like 8, 9 hours. Then I would wake up about 4 o'clock to sew when I got orders. And after work, I would go and do 2 hours of classes, right? So one day I dropped my son to preschool and I just randomly walked over to my doctor's office and I said, I don't know why I'm here. I just didn't know where else to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and this wonderful man, I had no money. I was in borderline house clothes because I told you pants up
Mm-hmm.
and short pants, right? And I sat there and I poured my heart out for like 20 or 30 minutes. And then he said to me, I'm going to refer you to a psychiatrist. I think you may be depressed. And I had been saying that to him for like 2 years. But the thing is, and that's why I'm going to talk about the symptoms after, is I don't look like depression. And
Yeah,
that's why it was so
exactly.
difficult to get
May I
diagnosed.
just confirm it wasn't a psychologist or counselor, it
No,
was
it
a
was a psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
A
Wow.
psychiatrist,
Okay.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't look like depression, so it's hard to diagnose me with depression. From the
Mm-hmm.
time I was a really young child, I think the first time I had an ECG, I was 6 or 2. I was really, really young. And I used to have these weird feelings of my chest feeling tight and I'm struggling to breathe. And I didn't know what it was, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And the first time I had an ECG, I remember the doctor saying to my grandmother who raised me, um, she just wants attention. I think because you're traveling, she just needs to know that you love her. So just cuddle her, take care of her. She's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I didn't notice was that I would feel this way, and around the time I would seek treatment or go to the doctor, the symptoms would kind of die down. So understanding it
Mm.
now, I realized I was calming down. So
Okay.
all the physical symptoms, the heart palpitations, all of those things, they kind of quelled around the time I would go in. So it never really looks like anything physically because I masked it very well. I still had to get my hustle on. I still had to be a
Mm.
parent. I still had to be an outgoing child when it was happening to me back in the day. So it was a whole ball of different things happening at the same time. So I
Mm.
wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
but I was dealing with this from the time I was a child. I just
Yeah.
didn't know. Doctors
Yeah.
didn't see it in
Ditto.
my
Ditto.
family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I went to the psychiatrist first, not realizing that he would have just given me medication. It wasn't talk therapy.
Ooh.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, so I got a bunch of medication and it got a massive UTI. I couldn't even walk because I was just taking so much stuff for this.
Mm.
And I finally said to my doctor, I don't think this is working. I can't just keep taking medication. Like, what am I going to do about this? Now, this is really early on before mental health was sexy. So a lot of people didn't know what to do with this, especially since, he's a general practitioner. What is he going to do
Yeah.
with this
Mm-hmm.
person who's seemingly depressed, seemingly dealing with anxiety, but on the face of it, he can't see or understand anything that I'm saying to him. There's no actual
Exactly.
evidence.
I've been there. You don't
Right.
look
So
it.
that
You don't
that's
look
when
it.
the symptoms had
Yeah.
to come after
Mm.
because there were no symptoms to talk about. Right.
Mm.
So eventually he sent me to a psychologist and I started talk therapy. And then I started getting the proper treatment for anxiety because depression for me was seasonal. It wasn't
Mm.
something that was continuously just ongoing. Anxiety for me was chronic. Anxiety was morning, noon, night, before bed, as soon as I wake up.
So
I
let's now assess, let's now
repeat.
go through the actual symptoms because as I said, we know that everyone's
It's different.
who suffers with this is going to be or has suffered in any spouts or periods or seasons is going to be so individual. And so
It
one
is.
person could be extreme and say, oh, I don't think I have it because his or hers. You can't
Right,
compare. You cannot compare, although it's nice to relate. So with
right.
yours, what was your anxiety like? What was, did you have internal shaking? Was it because what was it like for you?
For me, it's like hypervigilance, it's tight chest, it's tremors, it's literally feeling ill.
That's the word,
Because
tremors.
yes, because one of the things for me is um my body found safety in sickness. So I literally would fall sick if I was anxious.
Oh,
So that
mhm.
I was talking about the security system earlier.
Yeah.
It's literally my protective mechanism was getting sick. So I would not just get a headache and not be able to, I would feel literally sick. I would faint. I would get diarrheas. I would get
Mm.
just stomach aches. I would get
Overwhelming.
like I was physically,
Mm.
and it was for when I started feeling symptoms that it would start with just a tight chest, then a little difficulty breathing, then progress into tremors, and it would just progress from there. And I would be like 2 3 weeks, and I'm down. So
Mm.
it didn't necessarily come in a particular order, but that's what it felt like.
So did
So
you say it
it was
lasts for
kind of
two,
like a
3 weeks? Sorry, 2, 3 weeks it
yeah,
would last
yeah,
for the periods. Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it would end up being this cycle of I'm anxious about being anxious, so then I'm anxious about getting anxious, and then I'm anxious about being anxious.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yep, yep,
So
yep.
it ends up being just a cycle of I'm so terrified of being anxious that I end up being anxious. So then now I'm trying to not be anxious, but then I'm anxious.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
can
it was a
relate. So if
constant
those who never had it, they'll be like, what are they talking about?
but
Yeah.
and if you've ever been
Yeah.
there, and then
Yeah.
eventually being in just this constant cycle of trying to manage because I'm managing, like I said, being a new mom, working and taking classes,
Mm-hmm.
trying to manage all of this. Eventually, my body shut down and I became
Mm-hmm.
depressed. Like it was nothing was moving me. I couldn't. Nothing mattered to me. And like I told my doctor that morning, the reason I came to him was for the first time I couldn't find love for my son. I genuinely
Mm-hmm.
just couldn't feel anything. Like I was so numb. I couldn't feel anything. I was there. I was curtains drawn. I only got up to go to the bathroom and probably eat. I did the mandatory things to
Mm-hmm.
survive. So I
Yeah.
got up, I go to work if I have to. If I don't have to, bed.com. I would just do absolutely the bare minimum. And I realized that I was withering away. And consider this person that you see now withering away. It
Mm-hmm.
feels tragic. And it was just a constant battle of trying to figure out, is this anxiety? Am I actually coming down with the flu? Am I depressed? I'm just in a constant state of terror of the next time this is going to just put my life on pause, or this is going to just shut me down. And it just created this constant cycle. And the reason it started with burnout is because I didn't recognize the burnout. The burnout came before the anxiety because I was doing so much. I wasn't getting enough sleep. And that's one of the major things that my doctor said to me. You're not sleeping enough. You're not
Right.
recuperating.
Was it
You're
also
not eating
dietary as
properly.
well? I mean, so you weren't sleeping enough. So let's go back to the burnout. So where that was the birth of everything, you weren't sleeping enough. How was your dietary at the time?
It was okay.
Hmm.
I can't say that I remember, but I know I was always very good with hydrating myself and stuff. I was eating regular meals. I wasn't like skipping meals or
Hmm.
anything like that at that time. But um I know it had a lot more to do with sleep and my stress levels because I
Hmm.
had gotten into a job where I was terrified all the time of losing my job, and that didn't help. So being in a very toxic work environment was the thing that really pushed me over the edge, to be
Oh my
honest.
gosh.
And
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Hmm.
I dealt with it for a very long time. I grew up with this as my MO. I operated as a beauty queen, as a model. I was already operating with anxiety, but dealing with such a stressful work environment, crazy hours,
Can
and
affect the
just
mind.
breaking the
Yeah.
wall, it broke me. It really did. And they weren't very accommodating to it. In
Mm.
the beginning, I had a manager who I spoke to, and I did say, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm trying to manage it. So please understand that this is what I'm doing. And she was, and then she got fired, and everybody else wasn't as understanding. And I wasn't the one to go out
Mm.
there, telling everybody my business, because it wasn't that kind of place. So I managed until I couldn't, and then I left.
Mm. Okay, thanks for pausing this moment. Wow. Okay. No, no, no. Because I didn't want to. You know, when someone's on a flow, and obviously I'm going to weave in between your dialogue. Wow. So the burnout, guys. I'm sure there has been times already in our lives where well, no. Let me retract because not everyone has this. Let me retract. Some people get warnings, which you did, and I do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, some doesn't get warnings. You just crash, and some people never even overcome it.
Yep.
Gone. Yeah.
Yep.
So thankfully, some people, and if we tune in a little bit more and cut out the white noise and be still sometimes, because being busy for many is a distraction, which is why they like to be busy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes
Yes.
giving yourself, it's important to give yourself regular moments of stillness so you can hear what's needed. And if you
Yes.
hear that inner and you're tuned in where it says, you need to stop, you need to not answer
Yes.
that phone, you need to be able to say no to this person and actually just zone out, lock off, replenish, whether it's whether it's sleep, whether it's TV, whether it's a holiday, whatever you can do, swimming, whatever. Take that time because that's the whole point of when you're burnt out, your body now is overwhelmed. It's like being overheated.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
when your computer or your phone's had enough and you got to update that software, that's what we need to update the software.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what it is. The software is now needing updated or a whole new phone needs to be upgraded. And that's when
Mm-hmm.
it gone up here.
Yep.
So the burnout,
Yep.
that's number one. When you don't get that warning sign, but we often get the warning. We often
I
get,
feel like we
often.
do. It may not look the same for everybody,
That's
but
what I meant. Yeah.
when you do take that time, that regular time to check in with yourself, which is one of
Yeah.
the major things that I adopted. When you learn to check in with yourself, you do see your signs. Your signs may not look like my signs. Your signs may be a lot
Mm,
more subtle, but you always know. Because sometimes you get periods of time where you're just having headaches. Why are you having headaches? You're not supposed to have headaches. So what's happening? This is a signal to your
mm,
body that is getting overwhelmed. Something is happening.
yeah.
It's starting to overheat, like you said. Because stress is a regular part of life. It's not possible to not have stress. Stress is what drives us. Is
I'm a
stress
stress
in your
bucket.
body?
Me, I go to the steam sauna. I'm in the gym, and then I'm all right after
Yeah.
sometimes.
When you
So
need to decompress, it's
yeah,
really important to let it out. And there's this culture that we've adopted for whatever reason, where we believe
yeah,
that we need to constantly be busy and we need to constantly be at it and we need to constantly be working in order for us to be important or in order for us to be of worth. And I do not believe that. I don't. And that is the thing that I stepped away from that really did change my life. Because now I have room to have an actual life. I have room to have space
mhm,
for everything: my
yeah,
job, my family, people that I love, and people that I'm getting to know. And that is
yeah,
what is fruitful to me. Somebody
hmm,
sent me a message yesterday, and it was a message from somebody who was trying to sell them something. And I was
yeah,
so turned off by the fact that she kept saying, um, and you're leaving money on the table and you're leaving money on the table, and that's how they get you. People try to convince you that you're supposed to monetize everything about you. And I don't believe that. Sometimes
okay,
something is just for you, and there's a beauty in that,
yeah,
and there's privacy in that, and I love it so much. Everything is not for the gram, everything is not for your friends, everything is not for
exactly, yeah,
some things are just for you. If you love to
mm-hmm,
bake cakes and you literally just love the catharsis of it, and you want to bake your friends cakes for their special occasions, and you want to bake cakes for people as gifts, you don't have to make people convince you that you need to be charging for this. Yeah, it would be great, but maybe you're a nurse who absolutely
mm-hmm,
loves helping people and being of service in that way, who also, and that thing that we're afraid of, because
yeah,
everybody tries to put you in a box, right? You're a nurse, how dare you bake?
yeah, yeah,
So maybe you're a nurse who loves to bake and you don't want to make money out of it. You just love to do it and you're doing it for the love of it. And it's so important to have that thing that feeds your soul, because a lot of the time that's the thing that helps you to actually decompress and actually depress. And decompress, sorry, and actually de-stress so that you can release all of that things, those things, so you don't get yourself into the burnout and get yourself to all the other things that are harder to come out of instead of you having to just do the things you love
A
anyway
hundred, a
and not get
hundred
there.
percent. Before you proceed, 100%, I just wanted to also touch on what you mentioned about work and how the
Mm-hmm.
environment obviously was not prolific and fruitful. It was the opposite. It was toxic for you and it was affecting you. And that is
Yes.
something I'm glad you mentioned. And viewers who will watch this back, for an example, I resigned from a full-time role and left myself insecure with agency roles, which is not secure. But although both sides has its pros and cons for
Right.
a meanwhile, the meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
jumping ship so that I could progress and trust myself to expand without that. Okay, it was necessary. Staying in
Mm-hmm.
roles, or even if you are self-employed in a role that you don't love, is affecting you
Exactly.
negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Get out. I've worked with numerous colleagues in numerous environments, and all I'm hearing every day is what time's work going to finish. If you're not, that means you're not happy. If every day
Right.
looking at your watch, I don't mean sometimes, if every day looking at that damn watch,
Right.
when's work going to be done? Oh my God, what? The minute you get in your ticket, it's time to jump ship. There's a post
Yep.
and quote that says, know when to leave your job, the party, friendships, and relationships. Know when to leave.
Yep.
Know when to
Yep.
leave. So did
Yep.
you leave the job?
Of course I did. And I'd like to preface this by saying that I'm by no means saying that you're supposed to leave your job and become an entrepreneur. Because
Mhm.
entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
It's not
And
for
I'm not the
everybody.
kind of person
Exactly that.
who's gonna tell you, leave your job because entrepreneurship is the way to go. That's totally not the
There's
case.
many
God
jobs
understands
out
the
there.
environment.
Yeah, may not get the
Exactly.
dream
Because
one, but there's
sometimes
many jobs out there. Yeah,
right, because sometimes you did try entrepreneurship and it's actually the job you need to leave so that you can
right.
get something that's more accommodating to your lifestyle, and that could be a nine
Hmm.
to five, a beautiful,
Yeah.
wonderful job that you enjoy. So I left a toxic job because it was going to kill me. It literally
Hmm.
was going to kill me. And it was the kind of job where I I feel like it was designed that. It really isn't a healthy environment. It still isn't. People who still work there, who I've seen, have spoken to, can tell you that it's really not. We were cussing all the time. Nobody, you get in there and you feel the weight of just the negativity and the weight of carrying. Our hours ranged from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Mm.
And yes, overtime was mandatory or you got written up. Um, you couldn't read anything outside of the company's um, what you call it, any media that is from the company. So you couldn't even take time to grow yourself. So if you're studying, you couldn't bring anything to study. You couldn't read anything outside of the scope of the company. All of those things, and it just started feeling like a smaller and smaller hole that I was just sitting in.
Mm.
Around the time that I left, there was this massive purge that was going on where people were just randomly getting fired and just a couple of
Wow.
weeks later.
Oh, so that was
And
your fear of losing the job. Is that where that bit came in? The fear of losing your job?
no, that was just company structure. A
Oh,
customer could call
okay.
and report you for something or the other, and because the customer is always right, you could just lose your job. So you could come to work tomorrow and then just not, and you train for
Mm.
this, you for the job, and there was just this constant fear of you losing the job, and that was company culture. They make you believe that this is where you're supposed to be. This is the best thing that
Mm.
will ever happen to you. So if you lose it, you're a loser, and your life will never be as good, right?
Mm.
So that's just the company culture. So being there made it very hard to do anything else because you're always exhausted, not just physically but mentally as well. Just
Mm.
think of leaving work at 1 a.m. and having to work probably 8 o'clock or probably another 4 o'clock until 1 a.m. It's crazy, right? And that's not good for your body. And there were issues with where my son was going to be while I was at work. So my life
Mm.
wasn't accommodating to that type of job, but I tried to keep it because you need the money, things have to be
Mm-hmm.
done. But eventually I realized and I spoke to my partner and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick more than I'm not. I'm not here
Mm.
more than I am because I was going through so many bouts of anxiety that I had to take sick leave to get treatment because you have anxiety, you get sedatives. Sedatives are not conducive to work. So I had to take time off to not be that bad anymore and then come back to it. So eventually I realized I couldn't keep just putting these things in my body and not have anything else. So I had to leave. And thankfully I already had a side hustle that I was building, so I could have just gone into that, which is what I did. But
Great.
it was a situation where people were getting fired, and I had to leave at that point because I remember when the girl next to me got fired for literally no reason. I'm not gonna say any more about it, but she
Yeah.
got fired for no reason, and because of how they were doing it, I was working at the time, and they were looking in my direction. I didn't know if it was me or if it was her, so I literally froze for like 3 minutes. I was so terrified I couldn't do anything,
Oh.
you
Mm.
know. So after that, I had to literally just take a step back and catch myself because I was so scared, and they had no regards for our safety, they had no regards for our lives. So I was like, you know what, this is a great company to have on your resume, but it's not a great company for me to work at. And I never left and felt like, oh my gosh, I wish I still worked there. And as an entrepreneur, building from scratch can be tough, especially financially when you're recycling money back to try to build. But even in
Mm-hmm.
the hardest of times, I never felt like, oh my gosh, I wish I was still there. Because even in the hardest of times in my own business, it was still better than working there.
Mm. But let me
So my
ask you a
peace of mind became
question.
more
Let me
important.
ask you, when you, in regards to the role and the anxiety and how all that layered into each other, the domino effect, when you was going to work, were you going into work also with like, oh my God, each knowing you had to go in, was that also an escalation of anxiety? Whilst
Yes.
being there, it's anxiety as well. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's crazy because we were talking to two, sometimes three customers at the same time. You can't make any errors.
Mm.
You get charged for the errors, so the errors get taken from your salary. So you have to be on the ball all the time. And then there's stress from your actual life. So if I have a problem with my boyfriend, or I'm sad about my child, or I had an argument with somebody at home, I also have that to take in
To
what
deal
is
with.
happening. And obviously that's real life. Things happen, but
Hmm.
you cannot be in that state constantly. It's okay for you to have
Constantly.
off.
Yeah.
Everybody has off days and off weeks. But when you're in that space for months and even years, that is going to destroy you. It's really not
Mm.
good for your body to be in any one space for an extended period of time. If you think of even just you being
Hmm.
in water, you sitting in a pool for an extended period of time changes your body.
Yeah.
You start to cool, you start
Yeah.
to your skin starts to change because you're not meant to do any one thing for a super extended period of time. So when you're in these kinds of toxic environments for extended periods of time, your body adapts, and it could adapt in one of two ways. You could either
Hmm.
become an anxious mess like I was, or
Hmm.
you can become a toxic mess, and neither one of these things are your dream life. I'd like to think so. It's really about understanding that if you're in a position to make those changes to those kinds of companies to create less toxic environments so people could actually thrive and people could actually enjoy working there and people could stay, then go ahead and make those changes because it's important for
Hmm.
people's mental health and emotional health that they could thrive
Yeah,
in the
that
place that
comes
they live.
first.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
important. So if you're in a position to make a difference, go ahead and make that difference because it is important. And if you do feel like you're powerless in that position, start taking strides to make a change because it is going to impact your entire life where
Hmm.
you work. Because if you really think about it, that's where you spend most of your time. So
A
if you're going to
hundred, a
spend
hundred
most of your
percent.
working life there, if you're going to
So
spend most of
Kim,
your working life
before
there,
we
you might as
touch
well
on
go ahead.
how we then go into the veins of overcoming and managing, let's go into more of the depression side. So we've kind of touched on the burnout and what that looked like for you, and then the anxiety. And as we
Mm-hmm.
know, everyone will have something different, whether that means loss of appetite or increased appetite, lack of sleep, oversleeping,
Right.
lethargic, trembles, or whatever it is that people
Yeah.
go through, whether it's hereditary, is it not? That's something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, not being ashamed, although a lot of the time we are going to feel because people look at you and feel like you're doing this and you're doing great, but sometimes it's the pressure of
Right.
it all in the first place. But anyway, um, in terms of when did that progress whilst you were having the anxiety? you also had the depression, yeah? Because obviously you
Mhm.
identified that to go to the doctors in the first place. So what did your depression look like? How far did it go? Did you ever have those suicidal thoughts, or was it just hopelessness and emptiness and stress? And let us know.
Um, it was mostly hopelessness and emptiness. But the thing is, what I learned from my own journey is that suicide isn't always I'm gonna kill myself, right? It's not necessarily leaving your body in that way, but it can also feel like you just wanting everything to end, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um the starting of just constantly being in bed and not wanting to deal with reality was kind of
mm-hmm.
as far as I went when it came to suicide. But the depression mostly felt like just numbness. When I start feeling like there's nothing in the world
Mm-hmm,
that I feel like doing right now. And I always feel like doing something, I promise you.
mm-hmm,
Always, always. There's always something. I'm the rerun queen. So even if
mm-hmm.
there's no new episodes of something happening, there's some show that I miss that I'm gonna watch. So when I start feeling
Okay.
like there's nothing, I don't want to spend time with anybody. I don't want to do anything, and it feels like this vampire syndrome is what I call it, where not even sunlight, you could tolerate sunlight. It's like everything that feels like life and brightness just feels like kryptonite to me. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what it kind of feels like for me. And the funny thing is, I noticed a trend of a belief system that actually triggered depression for me as well, where it came after every big win,
Oh,
which is
wow.
yes. So every time something big happened for me, I got depressed. It's like I waited for the shoe to drop for so long that I dropped it my damn self, and then I just got depressed in advance.
But,
In advance of
but
it
you
even
know,
happening to
could
me.
that just be? And let me try to make sense of that, because I mean, I think I can actually understand what you're saying. Hopefully, could that just be sometimes the anticipation of change, and you want and and now that it's here, there's a tiredness that can come with that as well.
No, it was
No,
actually depression. I in
but that's what
2000
I
and
mean. For me, the exhaustedness is what I've experienced in the past. It, like the whole climax to it, the constant go, 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 go. And then now it's here. It's like the crash. But you didn't have it like
even
that, you're saying.
let me give you an example of what I mean, because I actually
Mm-hmm.
did the research, and this is actually a thing, which is why
Okay.
I made the connection here. So there was this apartment I really, really wanted, and I got it in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and we moved in like the 1st of September, and by October I was depressed to the point
Oh.
where I was on medication for like 3 months up until February. So COVID caught me right out of depression, believe it or not.
Mm.
So I wanted this apartment for years, and then they sold the building, and the man decided, okay, I'm gonna rent it, and I got the apartment that I wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I got it, we moved and I settled in. I was depressed, and I just always know they're just subtle changes that happen in my body. Um, that I just know that this is what is happening. And I don't anticipate it, I just observe it just so I can. For, well, for me right now, I have just little things that I do to try to keep myself up instead of continuing to go back down. Because there's this way about depression, because it's more void. Like it just feels, like you said, hopelessness and emptiness. It kind of just pulls you in. So the more you sit in it, the more it just
Mm-hmm.
consumes you, right? Kind of like the flu. The way to get over it is to move your body, get that fever out of your system. But the only thing you want to do
Absolutely.
is cover up, right? And
Exercise being one of it. The gym, exercise,
exactly.
well-being, 100%. Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar type thing. So for me,
Dietary.
I start to move, and I start to stand in sunlight, because I know when I spend too much time away from it, I tend to lull a little bit. So when I start feeling myself, I literally just stand in the sun. Like you know how turkeys, you see turkeys, they're waiting for
Oh,
rain. I just stand in the
amazing.
sun and I just take it all in, because I know that helps, you know?
Mm,
But
we need
it's one
that.
of those things that I just try to be mindful of, that with big wins, it tends to make me depressed afterward. Like I shut down. So instead of being in a celebratory mood, and I am grateful, and that's the catch
So
22 for me
can we
personally.
still fine tune that? So, okay, let me go back a little bit before you do.
Okay.
When we have whether it's anxiety can be for so many reasons. It can be someone going for a job interview or first date, or it can be
Right,
extreme and it can be just something that happens like a flutter of a butterfly. In terms of
right.
like depression, you know what I mean? It could be so
Yes.
different in terms of range. So in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like depression and things like that, and especially when you describe after bigger wins, then you'd have that dip. Is this not coming from, which we would call the psychodynamic from childhood? Like something, I'm not saying you have to go into that journey if you don't want to, but there's often something, not with everybody, but with a lot of people, that has been pending for
Mm-hmm.
years. And sometimes people don't even know, they haven't identified what it is for why they have that. But for those who do, sometimes, okay, when I was studying therapy, one thing that my lecturer made very clear is that, and I believe this, whilst people say to get over things, there are going to be things in your life that you never actually get over. You learn to live with and manage
Yes.
every day.
Yes. Yep.
It's like having a diabetes for some people. You manage it
Right.
daily.
Right.
And then there are going to be other things that you get over, but you can't dictate which one it is.
Exactly.
The journey will dictate to you whether you have
Mm-hmm.
overcome that, whether you've learned to manage it. Not everything, it's like traumas. Not every trauma. If you bang your toe and you break your toe and you put a cast on the toe, you may find 10 years later when it gets cold, the joints still hurt you. You feel me, Kim?
Yep.
Yeah. But you manage the toe. You still put on your high heels
Yep.
same way. But you
That's
know,
right.
certain times that joint, you may have to put a bit of deep heat on it. You may have to just rest it, put it in ice or
Yep.
whatever you do. So some
Yep.
things never fully mend 100%. You just learn to
Yep.
manage it. I
Yep.
thought I'd give that
I know
analogy.
what mine is.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a good one.
Okay. And I know
I
that
did
from
exact.
experience. I know that. But then you have to know
Mhm.
those crisis calls of when it's coming back or whatever it is and what
Yep.
it is that triggers
I
you.
knew what mine was. Like I said, I've been through the shadow work. I did figure out the big event that triggered that for me.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't just that. So it wasn't gonna like heal it or seal the deal for me, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The thing about depression in general and also for me is there are layers to it. There's your little mild episode of depression, and then there's when it's just consumed you completely and then it takes
Mm,
months, so it's hard to get out of it. Um, the thing I found, and that's where I guess the overcome part came for me, is
mm-hmm,
I didn't like the medication as much as
mm-hmm.
I was very adamant. My doctor was
Mm.
very
I've never tried it ever. Yeah.
he was vehemently against it. He's like, I don't like these
Mm-hmm,
things. I don't like the odds, and there's so many variables. I'm like, I need to take it. I need to do something. I can't continue
mm-hmm.
to live like this. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna put you on it for 3 months. And I'm like, this shit doesn't work. This is just making me hot all the time, and I feel like I'm just getting fat, and I don't like it.
So it affected your body temperature and your weight fluctuated, did it?
I swear to
Okay.
you, I started getting hot flashes,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on it for like 3 months, and he's like, "This is the most I'm gonna give it to you for." And I said to him, "I feel like this is when it finally started working,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking it away." And then what I learned is that this is only half of the equation. Medicine can only take you so far because it's only dealing with one part of the problem. If you're not working and healing, whether it be talk therapy or whatever it is that you're going to do for
Yeah.
yourself to get
Yeah.
yourself through that journey and get yourself over the hill, it's not going to do much for you. It's just going to be a band-aid. And when you don't have it, it's not going to do anything for you. So
Mm-hmm.
I stopped. I just couldn't do it anymore. And obviously, this is not an invitation for anybody to stop taking their medication. Just saying,
Yeah.
everybody's
That was
journey
your
is different.
journey. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my journey wasn't working
Mm-hmm.
for me, and I didn't like how I felt with it. So I stopped. I said to him, I don't think it's a good idea to continue. And he's like, I told you so. And I'm like, leave me alone. And then I continued to talk therapy, and I found, and I actually went through this with my psychologist, and I made another friend who's another type of psychologist, and I did a lot of research regarding it, and I said to them,
Mm-hmm.
I find my psychologist actually said to me, "Do you realize how your face lights up when you talk about coloring?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it was in the most passive conversation we were having. He's like, what do you do when you're not at work? And I'm like, I sleep most of the time. And I think I started talking about it. And he's like, your face just lights up when you talk about this. And I'm like, yeah, I really enjoy it. So then
Mm.
he planted that seed unknowingly. And then I started coloring. I started sketching again because I did it at school. But you know, who has the time
Is
to
that
just
because
sit
you do illustrations and all that stuff, don't
but
you? And
but I
design, I've seen
haven't
on your
done it in
page.
such a long time. You know,
Mm.
everything is up there, and then I'm at work. I'm doing all that because what I did primarily was sew. So when he said that to me, that was back in 2015. I started again, and I started drawing. I started just sketching all the time. So I would literally, when we could have at the time, I was going to work with my sketchbook and trying to, you know, every chance I got, I started just doing fashion illustrations or whatever it was. And I realized that it was helping, and it was helping more than even the medicine because I allowed myself time to do something that wasn't
Mm.
what I was always doing. And
Mhm.
then little by little, I started just coming across research about how your environment affects your mind and stuff. And I remembered when I was going to school, when I was doing human and social biology, my teacher always encouraged us to use colored pencils, and she explained to us how your left and right brain works. So she said, since this is a very, you know, left brain type class, we're gonna try a right brain type approach. So she took us out of the class to do it and encouraged us to write in color. And this was my favorite class. I'm not a science person in that regard, but it was just so enjoyable to learn because it felt fun, even if the
Mhm.
information was so black and white. So I remembered that, and I started applying it. So what I did was, when I was coming from work, I changed my route home. So I would walk someplace else just to take in a different environment. I would try spending time in different areas. I would have lunch, not just at the lunch table, but I would go out in the garden and try to take that in, try to take walks on the beach when I can. And that's when I started noticing change. So I started just really going hard at creative outlets and trying as much as possible to spend time with myself doing creative things. And it just blew up from there. And I did the research, like I said, with my psychologists and my friend psychologists, and I started asking them when I noticed things about myself. I'm like, is this just me? Or have you ever noticed this? Is this something that you've observed? Have you ever learned that at school? And I experimented with myself, and just asking a lot of questions and with friends. And I found out this really works. And this isn't just me, but nobody's telling us that we could do this to help with our mental health. Everybody just feeding us these disgusting pills and saying, you know, this is going to fix your life and balance out whatever. And
Mm.
as much as it can, and it does, it only does that one part of it. But until you heal, it's going to be a recurring thing
Mm.
that
Mm.
just takes you back there every time you have a big win, and then
Mm.
you are
Mm.
sitting in depression because you cannot accept that you've gotten something good. So it's it was
I've never
really a
heard of that
journey.
one before. That's a new one to me.
Really?
Yeah, that's a new one to me. Allow me to
I
jump
haven't
in
heard,
real quick.
I read about it a few months ago. I heard that it
I've
actually
never
does
heard of
happen.
that one. I
I'm
think,
still thinking about.
yeah, I've never heard it in the same way. Okay, so let me jump in real quick as we get a bit further into that vein, and then check the comments and then wind down the live slowly. Let me go back a bit.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're speaking about how you tapped in to managing the stress and the anxiety. And you
Mm-hmm.
touched on, no one talks about how you can use this to actually manage that. Well, here's the thing. Number one, we know that things like sickness and the pharmaceuticals and the funeral services, it's a business. They need
Right.
people to be sick to make money. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So big up to the people that's trying to spread natural herbalism and herbs and the Dr. Sebis and these people, they're taking away their business. Do you see where I'm going? So realistically, you might find a really good doctor. I've had one or two in the past in this different areas who've said, try exercise, try this, try that for hormones or whatever. But very rare you're going to get westernized doctors um, telling you to use natural remedies. Half of them don't use it themselves. That's number one. Number two, interestingly enough, I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this. I've realized that creative people low key often suffer with these type of things, and I'm realizing it more and more. And I think the number one reason for some of us is you may not be in a position to utilize those skills the way you want to. So therefore, there's too much in here. And you're not allowing it. There's not an avenue available in the realm that you are creative in, or you haven't got that contact or that lane. So there's too much in here. I once knew a rapper that we grew up with, and I was told that he developed a mental health illness severely, like lost it because he had so much going on up here musically that there wasn't enough outlet out there.
Right.
So
Right.
I can honestly say, my brain, I am the marketing queen.
Right. Right.
But then if I don't find avenues, which I don't always have the resources, it can become
Mhm.
overwhelming how much I've got up here. So you got to find ways which we learn to manage daily to release it, whether that's through doing hair, like someone, like, like my mate here by Cheese, often on this live, maybe on this live now that does hair, whether that's through exercise, whether that's through design. I'm a creative writer, so I love to write, but I've been on the longest break. Yeah, I love to write. I love wardrobe. So I use my creativity in different areas as well. Yeah.
And that's
So
exactly.
unfortunately, unless you've got the kind of therapeutic people around you, you're not going to have anyone that says, let's do creativity. Like I actually want to go into facilities myself and do creative expression because that's me. That's prisons and
Exactly.
things like that is where I want to go with mines, you
Right.
know? But then you're not, unless you've got people like me and you and others who may be watching this, you're not going to have a doctor say, oh, go stop doing poetry. Oh, stop doing design.
Right.
So but let me go back a minute to go forward. This bit's a little bit important, I would say, a lot important. Just to take you back a step for those who I think may need to hear this. In terms of when people are going through this, did you tell anyone? Because I always find that people don't want to say, but I think it's important to tell someone you're experiencing these symptoms without shame.
I do now. Back then,
Mhm.
and I say back then like it was so long. It wasn't, but mental health wasn't as sexy as it is now. Everybody is on the mental health champion train. But before, you
Exactly.
know that crazy bitch is gonna get fired. Like, nope. You see a psychologist, my girl. How
But
dare you see
that's
a
a cat.
therapist?
Do you
Are
know
you
why I asked
crazy?
you that? It's a Caribbean. Did you see? There's a reason why I asked you that. If you're in America, the child maybe too, he's got his psychologist. America's big on therapy. They see
Yes.
it as a date.
Yes.
They're going to their therapist, okay? Caribbeans, we've overcome it a lot, but especially back home, you never really hear that
Yes.
they all say that boy mad. You don't really hear of so much
That's
support
it.
for mental
They're
health.
mad. Period. You don't anxiety, depression, anything mad. Period.
What's wrong with that girl now? Pretty girl like that. What's wrong
Yes.
with you? They
That
don't.
right. Fix up yourself. Fix up yourself. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are
So
so many
how did
people
you
that
go
have it worse
about?
than you.
So I'm keen to find out, especially because you're based in St. Lucia, the heart of the Caribbean, one of the most beautiful islands, I'm told. Yeah.
It's true. It's
How
true.
did you manage to say to your partner or to your parent or guardian, or I'm not feeling myself? I'm not feeling myself without feeling ashamed of that.
To be honest, I just had to deal with the shame
Good.
because at some point my health became more important than my shame. Like,
Ooh,
do you
come
want
on
to get
now.
shame or do you want to get better? So
Mm.
I had to, even if people in my life didn't believe, because like I said, I didn't look like anxiety. I was
Me
always
neither.
speaking, I was on TV, I was fashionable, I was outgoing. So people didn't see that in me. So when the doors closed and I'm just shut down, most people didn't see that. I lived at home with just my grandmother and my son. Who's gonna see it? But I had to accept that people at work believed that it was just a farce. People literally
Mm.
used to call me and say, "Who is your doctor?" so I could get fake sick leave when I wanted. I'm like, what? Like, it's got to, like, people did not believe that it was a real thing that I was going
Did
through.
you go?
So I
Were
had
you quiet? I must ask this as well. Were you quiet with your low vibration, interpreted as depression? Yeah, as someone once said,
no,
it's a low. Or
massive,
was you
massive
tearful? Was you
vibration.
crying?
Um, not often,
Hmm. So you were
not
just more
often.
withdrawn. Your one was more withdrawal.
Right. I
Hmm.
mastered very well. So like even if I was dying inside,
Mm.
I'm performing the shit out of living
Oh
this
yeah,
life.
ditto. I look better every time. That's how I
Present and
used to be, look better every
accountable.
time.
My
Yeah.
face is on, my hair is on, my outfit is on point,
Mm-hmm.
and I am living this life dying inside. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always look like it, right? But that's why it's so important to check in with yourself and be honest. I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe in being too ashamed to get help. So
Yeah.
thankfully, that's my story because I know there are lots of people who ended up on the other side because they were too ashamed to ask for help. My husband, well, my now husband, actually used to deliver my sick leave for me, and he
He
never
deliver
asked any
what? Sorry.
questions. He used to deliver my sick leave to work for me when
Oh,
I couldn't make it, and he never asked
okay.
any
Girl, that's
questions.
a
He was very
hookup.
gracious about it,
Yes.
right? He was very gracious about it. He never asked what's wrong in terms of like invading my space. So like, are you okay? Because I would give it to him, and obviously you can't see that anything's physically wrong with me.
Mm.
But eventually, I did let him in and tell him, well, this is what I'm struggling with, and he actually was one of those people championing with me, trying to take me out and trying to help me to get back to myself.
So you had
And
that, you had support. So other than him, did you have any other? Because this, I think these bits are also very important people to hear. Like, did other than your doctor and your partner, which the gentleman who became your husband, did you tell anybody? Like, or did you just go through this on your own?
I went through it pretty much on my own. Because even if
Hmm.
I did tell my family, that's what I was about to tell you. He wasn't my husband yet. We were just friends. So he supported
Okay.
me, and our friendship grew from that, right?
Hmm.
But he was just this random person who was just nice enough to do that for me, to be honest. Like
Hmm.
there was nothing else. And my family who knew didn't believe it. It didn't make sense. You know what I mean? And because of who they knew me as, it just didn't make sense. Like what? Because depression, like you rightfully said, is mad people. Like I'm not mad. I'm
Mad people,
functioning.
you're
I'm
supposed to be looking a
working.
mess. Your house is supposed to look a
Right.
mess.
On the
But you have
streets,
functioning
broken.
depressives who function in top jobs
And
every
people don't
day.
believe that to be true. They don't believe that to be true. So I'm out there doing all the things. I'm working. I'm managing a child. I'm paying my bills. So there's no
Hmm.
way that that could be true. So I pretty much managed it through trial and error and through the support of people who just came into my life and were kind enough to do it because I didn't allow shame to force me
Hmm.
to hide. I refused to hide behind it. I didn't just go out
Well,
telling
can I ask a
everybody.
question about that? When you say
Of
you hid
course.
behind it, this is the interesting part. I want
Mm-hmm.
to relate to you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Was it intentional hiding behind it? Because for me, when you said
Yes.
that a little bit earlier, and I said I can relate, what I meant is I never ever hid it. It was a case of I realized I wasn't going to allow those vibrations to allow me to look distressed. So I wasn't trying to
Mm.
hide, and but I realized I was the lower vibration I felt, the better I looked. But it was me trying to combat it as opposed to hiding
Right.
as a camouflage.
Right.
Someone's like
Someone
saying, "You're not going to have me. You're not going to have me. I'm still going to turn up and have my house good and live good." Yeah, go and do a nature walk or whatever it is.
that wasn't the case for me. Someone
Mm.
once said to me, that they something to the effect of they don't like talking to people who drag them down. So like don't always be talking about your problems. And that stuck with me. And for that reason, I
Somebody
stopped
told you that.
talking. Yeah. It wasn't related to
Oh,
depression. They were saying it just in general.
okay.
And that stuck with me. And I just refused to let anybody see it. I didn't know I was hiding depression. I didn't know I was depressed. I just knew that nobody's going to see that side of me because I'm not going to be the one dragging the party down.
I
I'm
can
not going to be
understand that.
the sad girl that everybody's feeling sorry for. I'm going to show up. I'm going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So then I always have a very serious disposition. My face is not the
Mm-hmm.
one of somebody who is very beautifully approachable. And that's okay because that worked for me because then people weren't always in my space. So
Yeah.
even my closest friends, I live by the road, even my closest friends at the time didn't know. They didn't know.
Really.
They had no clue. I
Mm.
was out there every Wednesday and Saturday karaokeing and living my life. I'm telling you, like,
So, but that's good because
people had no
you were
clue.
fighting it. You were fighting it. So let us know.
All my literal
How
life.
how did it begin? Now let's get to this part as we draw to a beautiful close. So you've now gone into the creativity and your classes and your illustrations and the sketching and realizing that this is a form of managing stress, anxiety and depression. Yeah. Let us know, how did you start doing the big, massive, renownedly known TED appearances, talks and presentations? How did that all start flowing into that to where we are today and having the business and everything like that?
It was very serendipitous, to be honest. Call it being at the right place at the right time. I was
Wonderful.
just so passionate about this that my closest friends knew how I felt about it. I asked a lot of
Mhm.
questions and I just ended up having the right conversation with the right person. And she was like,
Wow.
would you like to come and talk about it? Funny thing, I didn't want to interrupt you earlier
No, go
when we
for
were
it.
talking about
Hmm.
the medication. Remember I said I did the talk in June.
Hmm.
It was flagged for non-compliance because I said, and they changed the title of my talk. I said creativity saved my life. That was the title of my talk, and they changed it
Why?
because they couldn't have my talk out there saying how there's an alternative to mental health.
Yeah, because
So,
because because people will stop taking medication. They've got to be very mindful as well. Yeah. So what did they
so
call it? What did they call it in the end then?
they called it how creativity helped me live better or something like that. They changed it. They didn't even tell me. So they flagged it,
That's
and it's
that's not
and that's
cool.
why it
That's not
wasn't out.
cool. Okay.
That's why it wasn't out, and we didn't even know if it would ever see the light of day. It had to go like all the way to the top of the board so that they could decide if they're actually going to put it out. So
Wow.
that's it's like it was massively censored. Like they didn't want this out there.
So
And
let
I'm
me
like,
make this
why?
clear for the viewers. Your talk on TED, renownedly known TED, is a live show, isn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's. Oh, I would have had an anxious fit. Yeah, that's big. Okay. Ooh, yeah. So it was how creativity, was it
Saved my
helped your
life.
mental health? Is that what you said? Or cured your mental health? What did you say?
It's how creativity saved my life.
Saved
That
your
was the
life.
title of it.
And they
Mhm.
they changed the title on that.
Yep.
Did you ever ask them why?
I was just so grateful that it actually went through after so long of not being sure. I was like, this isn't going to stop whatever
Okay,
is happening.
good, good.
Because when it didn't come out, I said to my friend, the me of a couple months ago, the me before I did that TED talk would be an anxious mess right now. But this not coming out
Was you
now,
not nervous at all being on there?
of course I was. I had to do my talk twice because the first time my mic had a problem and I had to do the talk that's out now. There was only one person
But
in the
yeah.
audience. There was only one person in the audience because everybody had already left by the time I was doing it
Wow.
again. And they
Oh,
had the issue
really?
again. Mhm.
Okay.
Of course, I was nervous, but I wasn't anxious about it not coming out. Yes, it's wonderful. I'm so happy that it did, but I I'm a woman of massive faith. I said to my friend, "Listen to me. These people have no power in this situation." And
Mm,
having that peace with myself, I feel like I'm even prouder of that than the 10. Because coming from the level of anxiety I've battled my entire life, being able to be okay with it not coming out and God knows if it's going to come out kind of situation, I said they have
mm,
no power here. Whatever is happening here is happening for me and not to me. Because my
mm.
journey to TED was divinely put in place.
And
I
congratulations.
didn't
That's a
even
big move. That's
know
a big move. Yeah.
it worked because I did it and I thought she was asking me to come up and help her put the talk together. It was so hilarious. And she's like, "No, what are you talking about? I'm asking you to come on as a speaker." And I'm like, "No, you did not." And I was freaking out. And she's dying laughing because
Oh,
she's
so
like,
you
"You
didn't
always
know
do
on
that."
when did you find out you were doing the talk on the day?
No, it was earlier. It was earlier in the year
Oh,
because I had to fly. I had to travel to do it. It's just that when
okay.
she asked me to do it, I didn't know that that's what she was asking me. Is how it
That's
just it happened.
amazing.
It was happening. So like they had no power in the situation, and I don't believe that they did. I believe that it happened in the right time for whatever it is that I needed to do and have in place for it to be out, for everything to work together, for whatever needs to happen it happened at the right time.
It
I
happened.
genuinely
So,
believe that.
so let me ask you a few more questions before we close this live, which is number one. How do you feel? I know you've had your the journey of the rebirth and the metamorphosis of how to manage. So would you say that you never have depression anymore, or you don't ever have any anxiety anymore, or would you say you've learned how to manage it?
I've learned how to manage it. I would
Amen to
never say
that.
that because these things are not things that just leave or that you heal from. Because
Yeah.
life is ongoing, right? Things happen. Curveballs are sent your way,
Mhm.
and anything could switch you from being in a place of peace to being in not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
place of
yeah,
peace, right?
yeah.
This week, I actually dealt with anxiety this week. I was a mess. That's why
Ooh,
I had to take the time today to catch myself. I was having tremors. I'm like, what
yeah.
is
Me
happening
too.
to me right now? I don't even know why it was happening, but I also understood that there was a
Mm,
lot moving in my life, a lot moving
mm.
within
Stress
me
can
on a
cause
different
that.
way.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to spend time with myself, and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
giving myself the time to do that, and my signals were coming through. So I decided to just stop and take the time that I needed to do that, and
Mm-hmm.
it helped. I sometimes because of entrepreneurship, I find myself struggling to actually turn off, and that's one of my massive struggles that I work with all the time. It's okay, there's tomorrow, friend. It just cut off, you know, and that's okay. It's not about being a perfect person or living a perfect life. It's about understanding that it's okay that I'm not perfect, and there's no shame in that. So if I go through another bout of depression, I understand that depression is not the bitch that's gonna kill me. And I
Oh,
understand that it's not gonna swallow me whole because I'm gonna keep fighting to stay alive. And
well,
alive
amen.
being living
Mm-hmm.
my entire life. So if it means me sitting by the beach and just taking in some breaths because I need a day off, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna do that. If it means me spending a week sketching to give myself a sense of peace, I'm gonna do that. And separating myself from the need of people's expectations of what my mental health should look like or what my happiness
Mm-hmm.
should look like was the biggest leap that I made. Because yes, I feel anxious and yes, I may feel depressed, and that doesn't take away from the fact that I am a mom and I'm a wife and I'm a friend and I'm happy most of the time. I'm having a bad time, and that's okay. That's life. So I learned to manage, and I'm excited about helping people to manage because I know how much of a difficult journey that can be. And like you rightly said earlier, I also know that it's a situation where these are not the things that we're taught to manage with. You don't have to run yourself into a UTI for you to be able to manage going through a difficult time. Sometimes you can just take some time with yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Do it in a mindful and purposeful way and truly heal. And that's the thing, it's all part of the journey. It's one foot in front of the other, and it's a step. And you're never going to be fully past that stage in your life, especially when for somebody like me, and green in who I am. Like I said, I'm not willing to let go of all of it because it's part of who I am, and some parts of it I truly love and I truly enjoy, you know. So
Absolutely.
so I deal with it and I manage it, and I'm in a genuinely happier, better place.
Wonderful. Oh, that's such a wonderful outro. I didn't get to go to the inbox earlier, and usually I create space, but hey, sometimes the spirit just needs to flow. So let's see.
Sometimes.
Where am I? Hang on a minute. Let me see what people left. I'm not sure if those people are still there, but let's see what they left. Um, okay, I am Poetry 55. I'll remain single until someone thinks like you, free flow. Oh, thank you. Oh, that's cute. Hashtag, yeah, okay. True acceptance. Okay, we pull stems off and concrete rise instead of watering the uniqueness and witnessing the beauty within the, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Thank you. Ah, let me see. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me see. Thank you for those who popped on the live today. And okay. Sometimes I know that somebody else left a comment, but I can't see it. Thank you, Chi, for the fire bombs or sparks, whatever it is. Let me put a love heart in the box for those who passed through the live today and for those who will watch the playback. Okay, Kim, I know that we could not fit in your autobiographical journey the way I wanted to. It would be no. Sometimes there's so much more to unlayer, but I know that time is always of the essence as well. So we done our best within the hour and a half that we had. A little bit speedy, but we got through the most as much as we could. So let me first start off by thanking you sincerely for taking the time in your day and in your life to join me today and to share elements and snapshots of your life and your journey. I hope that someone watching this can be inspired and also realize that, anxiety, depression, and a sister once told me depression, a low vibration interpreted as depression. I love when she said a low vibration. It doesn't always look the way you would, someone looking strung out, a mess. It can look like me and Kim.
Right.
Yeah. And try not to feel embarrassed or ashamed to say, I'm not good. My personal words before I hand it over to Kim would be, tell someone. And if you're uncomfortable telling someone, maybe write it on a piece of paper or a note and leave it there. Because, everyone's extremity is very different. Someone can say to someone, I'm not feeling myself today. Others can have a real psychological crisis and it's very real, and you may feel embarrassed at a time where you need support. So try not to feel embarrassed or ashamed of that. And if you do, then put it on paper. At least you've said it out loud and it may help you to feel better. Check your dietary. Oh, a very important point that was brought to my attention. I watched a video on social media and two women were speaking about how they felt depressed and they couldn't understand why or where it came from. It turned out that they were lacking vitamin B12 and vitamin D. And once they started taking that, they felt totally different. So sometimes you're lacking in something in your body, and it can give the feeling of a trigger of a low vibration, but it's actually just a top up on your dietary change. That's a whole fact.
Yep.
I've experienced it. You're like, why do I feel off? And why's my fingers tingling? And why do I feel, and some just to top up on B12 or, whatever vitamin D or whatever. And it may actually vitamin C, iron, actually could start rebalancing you. Look at your dietary. Are we eating low vibrational foods or high impact energy foods? That's something to look at. Are we taking walks through nature, or are we training your body? Are you in that gym, or are you swimming, or having a steam or sauna? All these things help me, personally. So I hand it over to you. And my last question to you is, how do you feel about your afterthoughts? How did you spend your time on here tonight for you? How was it for you?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for having me.
You are welcome.
I'm going to address your question first.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good time. I felt like I spoke a lot, so I'm hoping that people actually get some
Good.
get some really, really good nuggets from it.
Good.
I told you before that I'm a talker. I can talk about anything for as long as we have
Super.
to get the message across, because I'm really, really passionate about getting
Mm-hmm.
people to understand and to be unashamed of what they're going through, because it's a lot more common than you think.
It is.
So I'm grateful for our time. I genuinely enjoyed it. I didn't do this half as much as I would like to, so I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity.
Super.
I couldn't have said all of what you said any better. The only thing I would like to add is to remember to breathe, because that was
Oh my
one thing
God, yeah.
I think I left out because of the constant fight or flight and the constant feeling of being like this all the time. I didn't realize that the chest pains that were caused by my anxiety caused me to teach myself to breathe shallowly and survive like that. So I wasn't taking deep breaths. So I was constantly tense.
Yes.
I was in the
Great point.
situation. I was constantly in a fight or flight mode. So
Mm-hmm.
remember to breathe and breathe deeply. It may not be easy the first 2, 3 times, but it's so important to move your body. And if high impact exercise doesn't work for you, because it doesn't always work for me, especially
Mm-hmm.
with the physical pain that could come with some of those things, it's really important to just stretch your body out and take some deep breaths. Do it a
Mm-hmm.
few times, and I promise you that's an instant change in your
Yeah. Breath work. Mm-hmm.
physical body. And that actually helps because remember, it's a cycle. When you feel that way, you're afraid of feeling that way. So you try not to feel that way and then you keep feeling that way and then it just continues to bubble over until it snowballs. So if you
Mm-hmm.
could just catch it and find time to breathe, and breathing is something you can do anywhere at any time.
Yeah.
Catch yourself, take a deep breath in as deep as it could go and let it out slowly. Take another one and it's just gonna keep going deeper and deeper until you actually feel and get a deep belly breath so you could release it and start to stretch your body and move your body to start feeding back into your body. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
change everything for you. Try to eat mindfully with all of those beautiful nutrients that you're talking about. Taking time to enjoy the food that you're eating actually lends
Mm-hmm.
itself to the joy that you're feeling. So all of those little things that we overlook, the small moments, like I said earlier,
Absolutely.
are a lot of the different changes, the small changes that add up to the big change that you're trying to create. So that's it
Well, that's
for
perfect
me.
for this video. Thank you so much. This video is going to be downloaded onto this page and shared snippets on all my social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, the lot. So the last, very, very last thing is please plug your website. Can you plug your website of Bandbox? Yeah, let us know where we can find you and what your website is. And I'm also going to add it on the links, but let us know about your website. Where can they find you?
Sure. My website is mybandbox.com. The link will be below, and you can find me at Bandbox Creative Studio on Instagram.
Super. Wow. Thank you so much, Kim. It has been delicious.
It has.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Have a good night. And you could
You
press
too.
the cross on the left or the right, wherever you've seen
I
it,
will.
to exit
Take
the
care.
live. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, my love. Bye.
Bye. That was nice. What a lovely lady. Guys, thank you for joining me. Enjoy your weekend, however you spend it. I hope someone who's watched this live today gains some level of prolific, as in fruitful inspiration or some sort. Tell somebody. Don't be afraid to tell someone how you're feeling. Every day cannot be the same. All right. Peace and love. Namaste, guys.